The SPL Kultube Compressor you've probably never heard of, but is fantastic. I was really interested in this in like the early 2010s when I first started getting curious about, hardware for mastering and so on. And so I was looking at these compressors that were kind of in the $2,000 range, and this was one of the candidates, but I didn't get it. I ended up getting a TF Pro P38EX, which is another very cool compressor, which unfortunately I don't have anymore. But ever since then, I've been really curious about this Kultube to hear what it sounds like, because it's got all the right features. It's got good reviews from Sound on Sound and Mix Online, but there's not a lot of chatter about it on the internet. When you look up forums and stuff like that, you have a few people that say it's a great compressor, I use it all the time, and then you have a bunch of people saying it looks funny, and it does look funny. And that actually might be one of the reasons why it didn't get as much recognition as it should, because it kinda is a silly looking compressor. It looks like a toy, but it's a serious tool. So I just wanna do a review for you today, go through the features, make a bunch of clips. I'm gonna do the clips from a mastering perspective rather than a mixing perspective, so it's all gonna be full mix stuff. If anybody wants me to do a follow-up video with, some vocals, drums, bass, that kind of stuff, feel free to send me some clips and maybe we'll do a follow-up video. But so let's dive into this, talk about the features, listen to it, and have some final thoughts on it at the end. Okay, so the first thing that we see here is the aesthetic, the visual aesthetic of the compressor that SPL was known for at the time, this gold and black that their Vitalizer series made popular. I think that a lot of people don't like how this looks with the cartoony font and, the cutout for the VU and all that kind of stuff. It looks a bit more like a toy. The grill over the 12AX7 looks like it's showing it off, which was a kind of a cheesy move at the time. But this actually serves a real functional purpose, which is allowing the tube to have airflow and cool off. We all know that heat is the death of electronics, so it's actually a practical feature. And I gotta say that even though maybe at first it doesn't look like your typical serious mastering compressor, I actually kind of like how it looks in the rack after looking at it for about a month. So as far as the knobs go, we have our standard VCA compressor controls: threshold, ratio, attack, release, and makeup gain. And the hash markings on these are great for logging and recall, because there's lots of little points you can grab here, and log it very precisely. Our ratio goes from 1.2 all the way to infinity to 1, which is a nice wide range of ratios. The attack goes from 0.02 milliseconds all the way to 980 milliseconds. Have you ever used a compressor with almost a full second of attack? I know I haven't. I should probably mess around with that later. One thing to note about the attack knob is it seems to be faster than advertised. So where I would normally set up, say, an SSL compressor at about 30 milliseconds, I'm actually finding more around 70 milliseconds on here, which I don't know if that makes the 0.02 milliseconds even faster, but again, you just set up compressors with your ear. Don't worry too much about the numbers. You just use your ear to set it up. Our release control goes from 30 milliseconds, which is probably the fastest release I've seen on an analog compressor, and it goes all the way to 2 full seconds of release, probably for some kind of leveling duties. The makeup gain is a bit much. It goes from -22 to +22. I would have preferred to see -10 to +10 dB, but then again, I'm a mastering engineer, and you never know if somebody wants to smash a drum bus with this and actually have like 20 dB of gain reduction happening. So I'll leave that to you people out there who are mixing. This tube Harmonics knob adds some saturation from the 12AX7 tube on the output stage to the signal, and you can vary that from 0 to 100%, obviously not being 100% distortion, but 100% of the available distortion that it does. I find from 0 to 50 to be pretty subtle and useful, and after that it starts to get a bit hairy. It's designed so that you're not supposed to adjust the makeup gain as you adjust this control, and it almost works well, but I have to tweak it a little bit to get it exactly volume matched. As far as these buttons go along the top, we have control of our VU meter here. If this is pressed in, it shows us gain reduction. If it's out with the compressor deactivated, it shows us the input level. If we have the compressor activated, it shows us the output level. A digital input card was an option for this. I don't have it. You probably don't care because you have an interface with dozens of channels of I/O already. Here, our mode, we have hard knee and soft knee, which is great for aggressive or smooth compression and all the things that go along with that. We also have this decompression feature, which is a gentle expander, so you can kind of add dynamics back to a signal if it's a little bit lifeless or flat. The attack and release controls have this progressive time control that is basically an auto attack and release, except that you can modify the relative speeds of the auto attack and release by using the attack and release knob. So that's pretty cool. It's like a customizable auto attack and release. For this key section here, this is basically your external sidechain. Now, it doesn't have a send and return for the sidechain. It just has an input for the sidechain, which means you're gonna have to grab a couple of extra channels off of your DAW and run them out of your interface and send them into here, which is actually great because you can do the sidechain manipulation in the box, which I do. So you can set up an EQ or even a limiter to work on the sidechain in order to change how the compressor behaves. The nice thing about this as well is that you can listen to your sidechain signal to hear how you're altering it, and you can hear what the compressor is hearing to make its decisions. This slave button is there so you can link many of these units together for surround sound, which was a big deal at the time when it came out. Everybody thought, you know, music was gonna be in surround sound, but it turns out that nobody cared and that whole thing kind of flopped. Nowadays they're talking about Atmos and mastering in Atmos and listening in Atmos, and I don't know, we'll see what happens. One cool thing about this active button is if we have the compressor off and we turn it on, it won't actually let us use the compressor until the tube and the rest of the circuitry is warmed up enough. So when we turn it on, we'll see it's flashing, and it'll continue to flash until it's ready to use. So that's kind of a nice feature to just make sure everything is in the right zone before you start operating it. One thing that I think is really cool about this is, you know, they have the tube featured here and it's called the Cool Tube, but if you're a mastering engineer like me or a serious audio engineer, something that's a lot more exciting is this written down right here: discrete Class A gain cells. So a lot of VCA compressors will actually use off-the-shelf VCAs, but this one has a custom VCA that SPL designed just for this compressor, and all us audio snobs always go, ooh, discrete Class A circuitry. Sounds the best, right? But all of this doesn't matter unless it sounds good. So let's go on and listen to how this thing sounds. I have a great track by Chris Fowler, mixed by Drew Williams. Very, very nice mix on it. The drums are nice and punchy, which can show us the action of the compressor, and the sustained guitar tones that are going on really kind of reveal how the compressor is affecting the rest of the music as it compresses with the drums.
I know, Lord, with this one
So in conclusion, the Kultube is a great compressor, fantastic piece of kit for the money. If you can get your hands on one, I wouldn't hesitate to grab it. Some of the pros are great recall, great clean sound, perfect linking, sidechain compression, decompression, soft knee, hard knees, the list goes on. The features, the sound, awesome. As far as cons go, there's no send and return on the sidechain, and so that could run you into some routing difficulties. The aesthetics is a con if you don't like how it looks. And finally, the ceiling is plus 22 dBu. For mastering gear, we're more used to things around 26 to plus 30 dBu. But that being said, I haven't found it to be a bottleneck at all in my setup, and I don't even think about that ceiling as it just seems to pass audio clean with very little distortion. There's some units in this price range that you might want to consider as well. The TF Pro P38, which I used and loved for several years. It's an opto compressor, but it's more predictable and linear, kind of like a VCA is. Also the Elysia Expressor that I haven't used. I would love to do a Kultube versus Elysia Expressor video one day. We'll see if I can get my hands on one. And lastly, I would like to mention the Dangerous Compressor, which is about twice the price, but performance-wise is in the same ballpark. And I would actually prefer the Kultube to the Dangerous Compressor, which I used for a couple years and sold, because even though it's a transparent compressor with lots of versatile features, I find the release setting doesn't really do anything, and you can't really set the compressor up to groove like you can with the Kultube. The Kultube is a very groovy compressor. I don't think it's gonna leave my rack for a long time. If you have any other questions about this, put them in the comments. If you have any requests, we can do a follow-up video where we dig deeper into the sidechain stuff and explore some more advanced features of the compressor. Thanks for watching, and if you ever need a mastering engineer, I'm your guy. Cheers.